So we are the ones talking to you today are from the Queralt network, and there's one from Singapore. So what is open source? Open source is basically software that anyone can see, modify, or distribute, subject to licensing, subject to the license that is released under. So famous examples are like Mozilla Firefox and the Android mobile operating system. So what's interesting here is that you can actually see how they created these software products, and you can recreate it or create your own spin-off or even make money off it, depending on the license. On the other end of the spectrum is closed source, which is also known as proprietary software. So you can't see the source code, so you can't recreate it. You don't know how it's made. It's a secret. And famous examples of this are Adobe Photoshop and Microsoft Windows. And usually when you install these programs, you have to agree to their license agreements where you can't try to reverse engineer the program because then they'll sue you. And also you can only use the software for its intended purpose. Right, so who uses open source? Okay, obviously you. So the internet itself was built on open source technologies. If you use the internet, it's most probably, if you're on a website, it's most probably served by a web server running on Linux. And you use a device, you're most probably using Apache Web Services, which transfers data between the server and your device. And also more than 74% of the world uses Android. And also large companies like Facebook and Google, they actually have dedicated teams who work on open source projects, and they open this to the public to encourage people to contribute and collaborate on it. So why is open source important? Number one is innovation and speed. So I really like this quote by Damien Wong. No one can out-innovate an entire community. So think about this. A company can only hire so many programmers to work on a project, a code, a software, to find bugs and fix it. But if you open it to everyone, there are more people looking at it and making suggestions on how to improve it and, you know, introducing innovation. So Eric S. Raymond here, he basically summarizes it as when people can see the source code, they will improve it, adapt it, fix bugs, and it will happen really fast. A quick note about Eric S. Raymond, he actually wrote a seminal paper called The Cathedral and the Bazaar, which was so convincing that Netscape released its source code because they started believing in open source. Another good thing about open source is collaboration. So companies can collaborate on technology that's mutually beneficial for everyone. So an example here is Hadoop. So Yahoo created Hadoop, which is basically an open source framework for managing big data. But even though Yahoo created it, other companies like Facebook, Twitter, and eBay, they also help to support its development, because basically, so that's the beauty of it. You have people they can become competing companies, but they can collaborate to help improve something that everyone will get to use. And TensorFlow is another example from Google when they released their software for doing artificial intelligence. Okay, so why should I contribute? Okay, you can totally do it for selfish reasons. So make friends with like-minded people. For example, you like a certain software or project, then you can find other people who are interested in it. You can find mentors to help you as well. Also to learn or improve a skill. So remember, the source code is open to anyone. So you can actually learn how that piece of software is created. And also the open source community is quite well known for being welcoming. So you can learn it together with other people. And for career development, so remember that open source is public. Anyone can see what you contribute to it. So you have a really nice portfolio as you add contributions to show off your skills, and you can take this with you anywhere. And finally, to improve something you love. Yeah, so if you really like a piece of software, show some love, improve it, make it even better so that other people can love it too. So how can I contribute? So there's just a few suggestions, there are many more. The number one here is just use it, use the software. Because when you use it, then you can notice bugs and you can report them to be fixed. And then you can start suggesting features so that the developers or anyone else who's working on it can improve it. And then once you know how to use the software, you can actually teach other people or even better, promote it to other people so that they can love it too and get more people to come help out with that project. And if you're good at language, you can do documentation, which is a very familiar gripe I hear from project maintainers. And also, if you're good at design, you can do design. Or yeah, and if you're good at coding, code. And if you have money, donate, because people don't live on air. So what is Hacktoberfest? Hacktoberfest is an event created by DigitalOcean, and this is its 7th year. And this year, they are working together with Intel and Dev. So it's a month-long celebration of open source software, and the intention is to promote the open source community to people and encourage them to join the community, which is why you're all here, right? So to join the challenge this year, you just go to this website if you have not, and you click on this button. They'll ask you to register your GitHub account, so do that. And fill in your details, and then just click Start Hacking. So once you've done this, whatever pull requests you do on GitHub will be tracked for the whole month of October. So what is the challenge about? Make 4 pull requests between October 1st to 31st in any time zone to any public repository on GitHub. So it doesn't have to be a repository promoted by DigitalOcean. It doesn't have to be a repository that's tagged with Hacktoberfest, though I recommend that you focus on those because people who tag it with Hacktoberfest are prepared to welcome you and mentor you. Also, a few things, no bots. All pull requests that you make should contain commits you made yourself. Do not use automated scripts. Also, your pull request should be of good quality. If a project maintainer thinks that your contribution is spam or they think that it's not helpful, they can mark it as spam and you'll be disqualified in the challenge. So the reward this year is the first 70,000 people who complete the challenge, you'll get a limited edition t-shirt to prove that you completed the challenge. And I heard that the quality of the shirt is quite nice. Or you can choose to plant a tree, so you can choose to save the environment as well this year. But we all know that the real reward is the journey that you take. If today is your first time joining the open source or contributing open source community, then we hope that you make new friends, learn something new, learn a new skill, take away something useful, do some self-development, anything throughout this whole month. And don't forget that it does not at the end of October as well. So that's all for my part. I would like to pass the time to Wendy, where she will talk about how to find a project that you can contribute to and how to do a pull request. I hope you're excited. Wendy?
Okay, thanks, Jessica. Let me share my screen. Can you see the Zoom stuff here? Or do you just see a Visual Studio Code?
I just see Visual Studio Code.
Okay, great.
I can see.
All right, hi everyone. Yeah, great talk by Jessica. I learned a few things there also. So yeah, I'm going to talk about how to find things to contribute to on GitHub. So a few things out of the way first. We'll be using a tool called Git. Git is a version control system. So what it allows you to do is to track and manage your changes on files. It's very useful for when you work on a project. You sometimes want to, you have different versions of it, right? So in the past, we have maybe file __1, file __2 to track that. With Git, you don't need to do that. And then you have the online hosting service for Git, which is GitHub. And here is where you can upload your entire projects, find other people's projects, and collaborate on with people on the internet. So it's a massive collection here. If you have an account, go to Explore tab and you can see like plenty of things to not just work on, but also play with it. And yeah, you can find anything here. So if you want to search for something to work on, just use the search bar here. It's pretty powerful search functionality. And here you can see, okay, there's this word Hacktoberfest, and if you're just interested in topics related to Hacktoberfest or wikis, you can use the filters here. If you want if you want to just work on the JavaScript language, you can also use these filters here. So that is GitHub. We'll come back to this later. And then we'll be using Visual Studio Code, which is a code editor, a file editor basically. And this is a very popular tool for people to, for programmers, developers, because it has a lot of plugins that's useful for us when we make changes. We'll come back to that later too. And okay, so if you go down the rabbit hole of Hacktoberfest, you might find our project under WWCode KL. So I've tagged it under Hacktoberfest. It should be under one of the Hacktoberfest searches. So what this project is I made this to give people a documentation on how to create pull requests if they have not done it before, and how to, what Git and GitHub is about, contribution workflow, and actually there's stuff down here also for you to contribute. So there's a collection of projects here. It's pretty empty at the moment, but yeah, that if you want to add to it, that would be great. But you can see there's something wrong here, right? Why are these two links, but this is not a link? So that's what we're gonna fix today. With GitHub, sorry. So this zoom bar is blocking my usability for this browser. Just going to make it a bit lower. Never mind. Okay. So if we look at the history of this file, you can see that this is me. It's mostly me, but then yesterday definitely did something. So this is kind of like the functionality of Git. It gives like a historical overview of everything that happened in this project. So I can see yesterday definitely did something. Then I go and see what she did, and I realized, hey, actually she fixed that link and she added a new one, but somehow I overrode it without noticing. So let's use a pull request to fix this. I'm going to show you the super easy way, which is I edit it directly on this file. So I have this icon here because I'm a approved contributor of this project. Actually, I think anyone also can edit, but it will create a fork. Okay, you know what? Why not we just create a fork of it? So this repository has not been forked yet. When you click on it, you can fork it right here. Oops. Actually, click on this. This one will show you the list. This one is actually forking. So I want to fork it into WWCode. And it's going to make a copy of WWCode KL Hacktoberfest into your own account. So these two are exactly the same, except one is under the account WWCode KL, and then one is under my account. And then I want to edit it here. Then I want to say, okay, let's put Daphne's changes back. I copy, and then I want to paste it down here. Delete this line and paste it. Okay. So I want to commit these changes, right? Basically, it's like saving it. And when you make contributions, you want to label it nicely so that people know what you did. So I'm going to say restore project links. And maybe I should put a space here. Okay, so when I commit these changes, then if we scroll to the project section, you can see that, okay, now it's back. If we go back to the main repository, you'll see that, hey, nothing's changed yet. Makes sense, right? Because I forked it, it is under my name. It's not going to affect the main repository, which is a great thing because you don't want everyone to make changes in their fork and then disturb the original one, right? So how can I modify the original one, the base repository? I can make a pull request. So go back to the main page of a repository and then look for this pull request icon. And you click on it, it's going to say, it's going to show you the differences that you've made. So you can see here, I've made one commit, which is the one time that I saved, and there's one file change. And this is what we call a diff. So this was the before, and this is the after. So you can see that this one line has been changed into these two lines. So I say, okay, this is as expected, right? Nothing wrong here. Let's go ahead and create a pull request. And this is the title for the pull request, which I want it to be the same as the commit just now. So the difference between a commit and a pull request is commits are all within my repository. A pull request is in between repositories or in between branches, which is another concept that we'll revisit later. So pull request is, you can see here, I'm trying to go from WWCode to WWCode KL, and I'm requesting that this repository take my changes. And then it says the branch has no conflicts with base branch, and I also have the authority to merge it, so I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now this pull request closed by itself. And then if I refresh the WWCode Hacktoberfest again, we'll see that, okay, these two are here already. So the changes are made. So this is the super easy way where you see the entire time I'm on GitHub. I've never left it, right? So what if, this is very useful for when you want to just change one file. But if you want to change multiple files, or if you want to fix code, you want to run the code and see if your changes are okay, see how the code works, right? If that's the case, what you want to do is you want to clone to your local repository. So to do that, you want to go to your fork repository. I'm going to use the shortcut here. Copy this URL, open up your Visual Studio Code, and then you have, these sidebars here are the tabs in Visual Studio Code. One of the tabs is called Source Control. And if you have, you can clone repositories from here. So I want to clone from URL. And then I want to paste it in, I want it to be in this parent directory, documents project, right? So I want it to be under documents project, Hacktoberfest 2020. So I'm like, okay, this is fine. So via Visual Studio Code, it's going to clone it to your local machine. Actually, behind the scenes, it's using Git, so you have to install Git for this to work. In the document here, every step that I'm talking about, sometimes there are two ways to do this. So just now I cloned using Visual Studio Code, right? Yeah, this is what you saw just now, right? You can also do it via the command line, like this. So if you look through this document later, which I'll share later, you'll see that there's some parts where you can do it both ways. Today, I will just show you everything via Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we have the entire repository down on our local machine. And then we can see, we have this file here and we can make changes. So I think I want to make some changes here as well. Let's add a resource here. Let's call it, what resource should we add? Maybe let's say Hacktoberfest tutorial, maybe. Or does anyone have another repository that they would like me to add in here? Oops. Oh, I know. Maybe we add Sina project. So Sina project is a parliamentary civic tech project. Maybe I add the Popit repo here. So let's add this line, Popit relationship. Okay, so I added one line, right? And then you can see this icon has a notification here. And actually you can see that there's a diff, the things that I've changed, you can see it very clearly here. Let's say if I delete this, you can also see red means I've deleted that one line, green means I've added one line. So it's very easy to visualize your changes this way. Okay, so I want to commit these changes, and but before that I need to stage it. So what staging means is I want to make it very clear that this is a change that I want. So we can, using this plus sign over here, I can stage these changes to what we call the staging area. So you see, if I change this, let's say I make a mistake, like I accidentally have a typo here. You see that the stage changes is it didn't change, right? My typo is not here. My typo is in here. So when I stage things, I kind of protect this set of changes. Let me make it bigger. I protect this set of changes from having any unintentional changes. So let's say I go to sleep, I forget about it. The next morning I say, hey, this one is I don't want this. I can just discard these changes. And then everything here I maintain as the one I want. Let's just ignore this at the moment. This is kind of annoying. Okay, so you see when I delete that, it adds to my unstaged changes again. So I'm like, okay, I want this. Let's add it to staged. Similarly, if you realize that you want to move this back to an unrevised one, you can just unstaged it. And here I want to add a commit message to say that removed irrelevant block and added new project. So this is the message that will show up in your commit. Clicking this tick sign will commit your project. And then if you look down here, you see that okay, I'm in the I have this one here. One means that you have one change pending to be pushed. Let's go back to our GitHub right now. And then we can see that our GitHub will not, our GitHub repository will not have these changes. Go down here. See, there's no Popit, right? Yeah, because everything up till now is still locally on our laptop. So you want to push it. So it will take a bit of time. Is someone talking? Oh, that's me. Okay, so now you see that everything has been synchronized. If I refresh this, now see that, oh, it's added here already. So okay, great. We went from taking this entire repository down to our local, making changes into our local, committing it to our local, and then pushing it to our GitHub. So we call this a remote repository because it's hosted remotely, and we call this our local repository because it's everything is in our local machine. So when you push, you go from your local repository on your machine to your remote repository on GitHub. So up till now, things were a bit different from the super easy way, but from here onwards, it's exactly the same. This is under WWCode, right? This remote code one won't have that changes. So it is as before. There's no pop-it. So I'll do the same thing. I'll pull request, and then I will add, yeah, this one is automatically added because there's only one commit. So I'll just create this pull request. And then merge it. And it should be reflected. Yeah, so now pop-it is in the remote code repository. So that's how a change goes from your side to the main repository side. So I was hoping to talk a bit about branches, but I don't think we have time for that. I want to talk about issues because if you want to go into a repo and start doing things right, like just now, I just decided this should be improved, so I just made the change. Like I issue already. And yeah, that is how the whole flow would be from start to end. Yeah, I don't know if we have time for questions.
Actually, I didn't quite get the issues part. Can you repeat that?
Okay, so most projects have, maybe you can see, yeah, let's pop it here that they have issues as well. So when people when they create issues, right, it's like saying there's some things to be fixed or some features to be added in the repository. So most of the time they will say, they will have like more information in the conversation here. And then you see Jeffrey, he assigned himself to fix this problem. And he say, okay, I'll work with you. And then they will probably create a pull request to see here, it links it to another issue to say that this pull request is trying to fix one of the issues. So that's the function of issues, to highlight things that can be fixed and for people to easily find things to fix. Maybe we can find a more popular, oh, oops. Yeah, so this is a very popular repo with 400 over issues, and you can see it's much more complicated. They've labeled things here to make it easier for people to see the nature of this issue. You can find labels like help needed, or maybe first time contributor to make it easy to more easily filter through the labels. I've also added it in the doc. Okay, issues. Yeah, so issues like needs feedback and all that. You can even use the labels to see if there's any non-code one if you don't want to work on code. Yeah, I hope that clarifies it, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions from someone else?
I will share this link.
So far, I can't see any questions in the chat.
How do I go back? Okay. I will stop sharing. If you have any questions, just feel free to drop it in the chat or DM me.
Yeah, okay. And then later you can talk to Wendy again during the breakout session. So now we move on to the open source project presentations. And the first one up is John. He's the founder and CEO of the IO Foundation, a nonprofit advocating for data-centric digital rights. And he's also the project manager of Project Lockdown, and which is what he's going to talk about today. So, John.
Hi, everyone. How is my sound level? Can everyone hear me properly? Just going to check the chat if anyone can hear me. Okay, perfect. Hi, thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you everyone for being interested on open source development. It's a really great feeling to have more people in the community participating into trying to make software a little bit better. In our case, we're going to be looking into an initiative from the IO Foundation called Project Lockdown, which essentially tries to follow up policies across the world, different thematic policies, and try to compare them and analyze how they might be impacting human rights and digital rights. So the project is called Project Lockdown. I'm going to type it over there. The website is Project Lockdown World, for those who want to go over there. And I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's go for this one, if I'm not wrong. Just let me double check that I'm not doing anything stupid. Yes, that's correct. It's this one. All right, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen by now. So Project Lockdown is moving from his version 1.0, which is the one that you see right now in the on the screen, where we started mapping policies that had to do with the response to the COVID-19 situation, and essentially it allows you to look into a number of data points that measure from whether a certain territory has requested for their citizens to be in lockdown, but also if there's a number of other restrictions on a daily life, and also for mobility. All of these are the categories. We measure about 20 plus data points at the moment. So one of the cool things that we did from the very beginning is we have this time slider here that allows us to see the evolution of those policies across time. And so you can see how things started in March. As you move over time, you can have a global view of what happened around the planet in terms of lockdowns. The data point that you see on the map is basically the one for lockdowns. We have been working on this project ever since the beginning of March. We won one of the categories as a runner-up on the EU versus virus hackathon back in April, May, I cannot remember right now. And we have pretty much about 50 volunteers worldwide from all over this. The other day we were celebrating our 6-month anniversary, and we are over 50 active volunteers at the moment, doing quite a number of things from coding to UI UX research, interpreting the sources and so forth. So one cool thing about this time slide is that we don't do any sort of prediction analysis. What we say is, well, if these are the policies that today a certain government has been establishing, and they say that they're going to have this amount of time of application, how is the world going to look like based on that? If anything changes by today, how the world is going to look like in 6 months. And that's pretty powerful to try to understand what are the consequences of those policies and what are the things that we need to pay attention to. It's quite a number of governments have taken the chance or the opportunity to pass regulations and policies that are pretty concerning just under the excuse of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are now, as I was mentioning, moving into version 2.0 of the platform, where what we're trying to do is to have a way more a varied set of policies, thematic policies. And so the first one that we're developing now is Contact Tracing Act. We're also looking into national digital identity policies and data protection laws. The repository used to be under Code for All, and now we are moving it towards our own organization repo. So you're going to have here, I believe Wendy has given the link to the repo. You will see that we've been working quite intensely when it comes to documentation, so you can understand as much as possible what are the different components that that we use in the project. There is a number of issues already open for you to look into. The main issues right now is that we need to pass, as I was mentioning, the files from repository 1.0 to 2.0, and there's two things that we want to get rid of in that transition. One is we are moving from Preact, which was a technological decision that was taken at the very beginning that is not working for us so well at the moment, from Preact into React. So we need to review all the code and make sure that everything is compliant with React. And at the same time, we are trying to get rid of the PWA component that was also integrated very, very deeply into the code at the very beginning, which is right now waiting on our speed, and is really doing nothing for us. This is not a service that is really at all useful, considering the type of project that we have. I don't think there's much more to explain. It's just a matter of you going around the issues. We are in the process of incorporating quite a substantial amount of issues as well. Some of them will be related to Hacktoberfest. Others are much more long term. And there's pretty much a lot of stuff from backend to including APIs to the back office that we want to refurbish for the introduction of the data. There's going to be machine learning because we're trying to design something to be able to absorb official sources in a much more efficient manner, because right now there's way too many manual steps involved. The front end, which is also going to be changing quite substantially in terms of how it functions for rendering the information on the screen, and also all sorts of documentation that we have a lot of it in scattered all over the place, and we're just going to be concentrating and consolidating everything on the repository. If there's any questions, I would like to take them now. Since I have 3 minutes left, but if not, I'm happy to give the minutes to someone else. All right, so let's use the let's use the time for Malaya and for Healthcare ASEAN. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you online.
Okay. So the next person is Hussein from Project Malaya. Let me just. Okay. So next person is Hussein Zulkifli. He's the founder and chief technical officer of the Mesolithica Sendirian Berhad, and he's also the project manager of Malaya, which is what he's going to share with us today. So Hussein, I'll let you take the stage.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen now. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yes, share screen. Desktop. Desktop, right? Share. All right. Oh, sorry. Welcome to Malaya. Right now the version is 3.9. My name is Hussein Zulkifli. Malay is still the official language in Malaysia. So according to this study, Malay is the 9th most spoken language in the world with 77 million native speakers, and second speaker around 173 million speakers. So which is Malay also being used in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and Brunei. Singapore also sing their national anthem in Malay. So despite they have a very heavy dominance in Delhi spoken in English, Speaker in English of speaker of Bahasa Melayu and Indonesia also can understand very easy because we come from a same root, which is Estonian language. Extent of use Malay language. Malay is a national language in Malaysia by the article in our constitution. 76% Malay language being used in Twitter between February until May 2020. So this one filtered by local topics, politics, and user latitude and longitude. Around 84% Malay being used in Instagram to post their pictures. This is solely based on the post, based on Instagram story between the first 2019 until 12th December 2019. So you can get this data, and we use this language detection module. Do we need NLP for Malay actually, right? So we know NLP to help the communication between humans and machines for any language. We watch Iron Man. Iron Man have Jarvis, right? Jarvis can understand really good. It understand the human language, and he understand what trying to ask from Jarvis, right? So we want to do the same thing like that. We want the machine able to analyze really good, really understand almost human level or more beyond human level to understand our language without fatigue and consistent, unbiased way. We don't want if we're talking about oh shit, I was thinking about politics, never mind. So in just 1 minute, we have more than 300,000 of tweets. Anyone can hear me, right? 30 million WhatsApp, 40 million Facebook Messenger, more than 1 million people watching Facebook Watch, and so on. So again, based on this statistic, the staggering amount of unstructured data become exponentially increased. Everyone has a smartphone, even kids nowadays have smartphone. They're watching Baby Shark, do, and so on. And they talk a lot in their smartphone. So we need to have really good technology to understand text and speech to make it future analytics. So open sourcing Malay NLP toolkits. Again, we always believe that knowledge worth sharing. So we want users able to, any users, any developer that even doesn't know NLP able to use this library. Like Stanford NLP, we have a very famous English language NLP toolkit. Stanford Spacey, something like that. Just plug and play, install, one-step install, and done. Everyone can start it already. So we want users to freely modify our work, use our work to improve our code, to solve their business problem, integrate into larger project, and create a new project based on our baseline code. So this is the typical hype of technology. Usually, like 2018, deep learning is not really famous. We have a few library that do deep learning, which is neural network. And that time neural network is not really famous. So when Google introduced TensorFlow, now everyone's talking about neural network, right? So TensorFlow is open source, something like that. Usually open source solve the hype problem about the technology. Even the TensorFlow evolved from another library, and I cannot remember the name. The point is, the first library that come to evolve to become TensorFlow helped to solve the hype. Even it become later it become a failed library, or it's no longer famous. So what is Malaya? It's an open source software library to understand Bahasa Malaysia. We call it NLTK. The software term to understand a natural language, which is human language. Using computer is a natural language toolkit. This is our stat. If I click into pepi.tech/project/Malaya, we have total download for more than 200,000. This is almost 3 years. Total download every month like 6,000, 5,000, 7,000, it depends. I'm not sure. This stats based on what maybe if this semester got more FYP student, so the stats more can be higher. We have a two version, which is Malaya and Malaya GPU. So we're just going to directly to the documentation. This is documentation of Malaya. Malaya can do a lot of things. Again, we want the users or developer just plug and play, one step install and done. So you can choose whether CPU version or GPU version. Just pip install Malaya or Malaya GPU. Again, you need to have an install Python or pip in your local machine or your server. After that, you can directly install and run it. What Malaya can do, augmentation, text, constituency parsing. Again, this is very NLP related technical. Dependency parsing, emotion analysis. But the most famous that people use Malaya, which is emotion analysis, entities recognition, normalizer, relevancy, sentiment, and summarization. That's the most common people ask how to use in Malaya. We look into emotion analysis. Emotion analysis put under classification model. So what emotion analysis do, it can classify emotion based on text. Right now, what emotion labels that we support in our life in emotion analysis, which is anger, fear, happy, love, sadness, and surprise. So this is example text that I copy paste from Twitter. Like anger text, this is very bad language. I don't want to say. Fear text, takut doh tengok cerita hantu tadi, something like that. We provide probabilistic model, which is this is probabilistic model that we learned during the high school, and we also implement very really good high accuracy. Like we call it transformer. Like the accuracy, this is tested on 20%. The accuracy almost 100% accurate. And the good thing about Malaya, right? Classification model, we can able to analyze word by words. Open image in new tab. Something like this. If I have a text, I want to know the polarity or the emotion every word level. Example, kecewa tengok kerajaan baru ni, janji apa pun tak dapat. Again, I'm not. This is not my text. I just copy paste from Twitter. So it knows everything related to sadness. So the attention here is to give to the users which word can give the high impacts toward the polarity or the emotion. 0, 1, 2. Kecewa tengok 0, 1, 2. Because of the word of kerajaan give the highest impact towards this emotion. After that, we have. It's too much in Malaya. We created a lot of module already, like generative. We go into generator. Generator also we look into. We will follow latest research by like big companies, Facebook and Google. We also created our own model. And the good thing about generator, right? You can generate any article. We can generate any article based on isi penting. Like isi penting that I have right now, Dr. M perlu dikekalkan sebagai Perdana Menteri, which is Muhyiddin perlu menolong Dr. M, rakyat perlu menolong Muhyiddin. We know this is politic conflict during the March, during the early MCO. So I want to test this model, how good it can generate a fake news based on this isi penting, right? So it generated like this, or you just give isi penting, list of string. You can be more than 3, more than 10. It depends on you. So this is what generated. So Tan Sri Muhyiddin perlu mengekalkan Dr. M sebagai Perdana Menteri, which is no. This is not actually happen in the real world. After that, it also put a blame on Anwar Ibrahim, like kepimpinan Anwar. Beliau membantu beliau kerana beliau percaya rakyat Malaysia tahu apa yang dibilang dalam kuasa beliau. Muhyiddin dan seluruh rakyat yang tahu apa yang berlaku di Johor. Majoriti menteri-menteri dan Pakatan Harapan banyak sangat ketua-ketua parti. But again, the structure is not that good, but we can see it try to generate a really good fake news. You can go through more in the documentation. So the future roadmap, because we already implemented a lot of modules in Malaya, so we're just going to follow the current state of art research and duplicate the result using Bahasa Malaysia. We also going to release a speech toolkit for Bahasa Malaysia. We already ongoing on that. What Malaya speech can do: emotion detection, speech enhancement, gender detection, noise reduction, speech to text, text to speech. Like speech to text, right? We got there's a company in Malaysia called Nusantara Audiobook. We got a voice like Lisa Surihani, Adi Bahno. We got more than 20 hours. We're not going to release the model open source. If let's say Lisa Surihani, but we augment the pitch to make it a little bit change from Lisa Surihani, because we want to avoid any royalty problem in the future. But the voice based on Lisa Surihani. So the combination here, we have two libraries, which is Malaya, the original Malaya. We really go on NLP, classification, understanding, and generation. And we have Malaya speech, really good in synthesis, which is changed into speech into machine understanding, machine form, floating point. Speech understanding, we are able to understand to speech to text. Vocoding, which is we can change into like very noise to really clean voice. So combined with that, boom, really good combination. We can do a Jarvis like a future Iron Man, something like that. So contribute to Malaya. If you contribute to Malaya, you can get 4 units of Tesla V132 gig of VRAM and 5 DPU in our GCP project. So all this by sponsored. If DPU, we sponsored by GCP, because as long we use TensorFlow as a backend, we can get the access, and we have a few companies that give the GPU access. I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Hussein. That was very enlightening. If later, if you're interested in learning more about his project, you can go and see him in his breakout room later. And the next person we have is Yelin Chung. She is the Women Who Code Singapore Director and also the Project Manager of Healthcare ASEAN. So Yelin, you can.
Okay. Got it?
No, you're breaking up.
Okay. My screen. Have you got the screen?
Yep, you can see your screen. Awesome.
Okay. Let me do this. Bring up the chat. Okay. So yes, today I'm sharing this project called Healthcare ASEAN. So it's been quite a long number of years since we started this project. So it started as a DataKind SG project that we built with a meetup group called DataKind. And this is a problem statement we come up with, that we want to use open data out in the internet owned by anybody else. Platform of description, exploratory analysis of the data, malaria and dengue, so that everybody can benefit from this data. Okay, it's quite so. Okay, so this is Healthcare ASEAN.
Yulin, can I suggest you turn off your video because you're breaking up a bit?
Okay, I don't think my video. Okay, is the audio better?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So yeah, so I have some problems with Singtel in Singapore this weekend. All right, so this is the project. So it's very simple. It's we are building this project using Python. It's a it's a data science project. So we do have this, we want to clean the data. We want to gather the data first. We want to clean the data, and then we want to do some visualizations with the data, model it, create some predictions out of the data. So it's quite neat so far. It requires a lot of work, so it requires a lot of help from you guys. It's on Python. We have identified a few sites that we can get information from, especially the Thai site. But the Thai site is in Thai, and I don't speak Thai. So if anybody can speak Thai, can help out, that would be great. Otherwise, we can use the Google Translate to grab the Thai data. So any of the ASEAN countries would be great help, because we do know how mosquitoes work. They don't follow our country borders. And some visualizations that we've got so far. This one is Malaysia's dengue cases by week. This one is Singapore's dengue. And this one would be Singapore's malaria. So bring you through to the project itself. So this is a project. It's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. It doesn't have much, but we do have quite a few things. So the project structure is really built here, so you can see the data. If we want to help download data, this is where we have all the download scripts, and so on and so forth. And let's go to the projects. And we do have a board called Social Coding. It's one of our meetup, regular meetup groups here in Singapore, but we have discontinued so far because of COVID. We can use this board, or we can create a new board. We'll discuss that in our breakout room later. Not a problem. So yeah, that's about it from me. Any questions? If not, I hope to see you guys in the breakout room.
You're muted, Yelin.
All right, thank you so much, Yelin, for that awesome presentation. So it's now, there's 2 more minutes before we do breakouts. If anybody has any questions before we move on to the next part, you can post it in the chat, or yeah, let us know. Otherwise, let me explain the next part. Okay, so this part, the main hall is where we are right now, the Zoom meeting. Wendy will be here if you want to learn how to set up your repo, or you want to install WWCode, or you want to learn how to do your first pull request, you can stay here. Otherwise, if you would like to hear more about Project Lockdown from Jean, or maybe do some pull requests with him, you can go to this link. If you want to hear more from Hussein about Malaya, you can meet him in this link. And if you want to know more about Yelin's Healthcare ASEAN, then you can go to this link. So I'm going to share this in the chat as well. Just give me a minute. Okay. Okay. So you can start moving there now, depending on which one you want to go. And I guess the project maintenance, you are free to go to each room and meet everyone else there.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm Maria, my breakout room.
So we'll see you back here at 3:30. Sorry, yeah, 3:30.